Welcome to the Bold Life Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and each week I bring you inspiring stories from real people to help you live a more passionate and intentional life. You'll learn how to up-level in everything from relationships, entrepreneurship, and leadership to spirituality, sexuality, and yes, even money. If you're interested in raising your game to be a better business owner, a better lover, and a happier, more fulfilled human, then you're in the right place. No more living on autopilot. You are just an episode away from a bolder, better, more fulfilling life. This is episode number 59 of the Bold Life Movement Podcast with JP Sears. JP, so excited to have you back. Thanks so much for coming on the Bold Life Movement Podcast again.
You're very welcome, Kimberly. I appreciate you having me again. It's very bold of you to have me again.
Twice.
Very
I
bold
know.
to be had again.
So a lot's changed since I saw you. This bad boy came out, which is really exciting.
Yes. Yeah. I'm thrilled to have this baby of a book birthed into the world, How to Be Ultra Spiritual, 12 and a half Steps to Spiritual Superiority. Which is a mouthful to say. How to be ultra spiritual for short.
Thank you for announcing it. I realized that for those of the listeners not watching us on YouTube, they didn't see I just held up your new book, which is awesome. It's a good feeling for me when I get to hold someone's face in my hands as I look into their eyes on the computer screen.
Yeah, and it feels like, to me, it feels like you have a voodoo doll of me when I see you holding my book that has
your
me
face
on the front of it. So it's a good book to judge by the cover. It's a beautiful cover and great cover model, if I do say so myself. But yeah, it's been a thrill to
abound.
Kimberly, I want to talk about myself more.
Well, good. I'm glad you brought that up because I really did want to ask you, how do you feel like you've become more spiritual since launching your tome, if you will?
Yes. You know, on a serious angle to that question, I think I've gotten more spiritual from becoming less attached to the old and embracing new things. So letting go of some of what's worked for me well, for the sake of allowing me to engage with what's next, what's going to work better for me. And what that means, in other words, the past few months, my videos, my comedy videos where I'd normally be in character, headband on, the character is still there, a tool in the toolbox. However, I've been doing a lot of stuff outside of that character with the comedy because that character, once upon a time, was something that allowed me to find freedom and great expression. And then I was finding myself to be that character is now taken away from my freedom because it allowed a lot of growth. And then the growth wanted to keep going beyond the confines of the character. So I think it's been spiritual of me to allow myself to grow more into the discomfort of doing things I've never done, leaving the complacent comfort zone of just doing what's worked for me. And honestly, I think what all that has to do with is doing my best to follow the calling, the creative muse, the intuition, the feelings that come in that are asking me to do certain things, as well as not only how I do videos, not so much just the character anymore, but also the video topics, I think have very much evolved beyond just doing spiritual and new age stuff, though that will always be fertile ground I can pick from. But like yesterday, I released a video on gun control. Week before that, I released a video on how to win people's approval. So diving into a lot of the dysfunctional patterns that we do within our own psychology. A little while before that, I released one called Passive Aggressive Relationship Technique. So it's been very fruitful for me to become more unapologetically direct with my message, even though with the videos, I'm still expressing it comedically.
Right.
It's not as safe of a playing grounds because I'm just being called to be more direct.
Well, I think that that's like a really natural evolution. You start niched down, and then as you've grown your platform and as people begin to recognize you and trust you and align with you, you're going to start talking about other topics that are just as important to you and relevant, and share your thoughts on them from your perspective in a very JP Sears style.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And it's just talk about myself for a lot longer. I would dare say part of how it's kind of like the old saying, it's not kind of like, it is the old saying that you need the stone to sharpen your sword on. You need some kind of friction or else you're not going to get sharpened. And I noticed, not with all videos, but certainly some of the recently released ones, there's friction from some of the old audience. Like, JP, you need to stick with what works for you. It's like, well, sticking there, what would that do for me? Right. I would just be doing the same thing over and over again. So, and of course, a lot of the audience is just super supportive and excited for change. And then new audiences come in as well when I do new topics. So I find it very self-affirming to see some resistance, and yet I go forward anyway. That creates the friction that sharpens the sword. But if I stop and don't move forward with the resistance, there's no friction because I let it stop me.
Yeah.
And then, Kimberly, thank you for being a guest today. I'll ask you, how have you been growing since the last time we talked?
Oh my gosh. When was it? I guess it was almost a year ago.
I could see on the Skype history, I believe it was September of 2016.
Okay. We met a year ago. That's right.
Yeah, it was last June 2016. Wow.
Yeah, we met at the Tony event, and
so fast.
I know. I've definitely still been throwing a lot of attention and resources at growing both myself and growing the business, which some days you see the fruits of those labors and other days not so much. But I feel like I'm really trying to expand in the same way that you are, taking what you started and what was working and pushing against any fears of evolving and any people that might challenge you when you try and evolve. And that, I would say that I'm on like a similar path, just maybe in a different world. The less, not so spiritually focused one, but yeah.
Yeah, right on.
So,
and
go ahead.
I'll allow you to ask a question now on your show.
So gracious. Always. So I wanted to go back to the haters, for lack of a better word, and I'm sure that with your style of humor and the type of content that you're putting out, there must be some people who approach you from a very literal standpoint and just like don't get it. And I want to know how you're handling those people, if at all. How are you being spiritually responsive to people who just like aren't understanding what you're putting out there?
Yeah, I would say I'm not responsive to them. I'm not out to talk anybody into getting my comedy and my message.
Yeah.
That would be too exhausting. I put my attention and focus into my message and expressing it, and it'll land with the people who are meant to get it, whether they laugh and have insights or they're offended. It'll go in at some level. But for people who just don't understand the comedy, it's like, well, I'm not going to give you an education on understanding satirical comedy.
Yeah.
That might not be the language that you need to communicate with for their growth and their benefit. And so for people who, I would say that the mild haters who might say like, this is stupid, I don't get it. It can get a lot more dramatic than that. But for those moderate ones, it's like, well, I don't really respond to those comments, not because I'm indifferent to them, but just because it's like, it's not my mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no point. So I know that you have to be getting approached all the time with different opportunities. I mean, even before the book came out, I know that people had pitched you TV ideas and things like that. How are you deciding what to say no to and what to say yes to?
Well, a big part of it is I'm not the sole decision maker anymore. I mean, ultimately, everything is my call in the end. But right now, I guess it's been probably the past 6 months or so, I've had a manager on board and now agents. So they're the ones fielding all incoming opportunities. So it used to be my attention was bombarded just trying to entertain new possibilities. And
Totally.
It's so wonderful now that my attention isn't bombarded. I can keep doing what is most purposeful for me and what feels the best for me. So by the time an opportunity gets to me, it's been pretty well filtered. So there's a lot of the no-brainer no's that I don't even see.
Yeah.
But then the well-filtered ones where the manager will say, like, this to me looks like a pretty good opportunity. Here's the compensation I've negotiated. What do you think? And it's oftentimes it's a yes, because he really knows me and knows what I vibe with. And every once in a while it's a no. It's like, oh, that product has an artificial sweetener in it, so that's like a no for me, or that's just right. And that really, but back to your real question, which I think was, correct me if I'm wrong, was it, how do I decide what to say yes or no to?
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to me
You're doing great.
Thank you for that information.
His first podcast interview, ladies and gentlemen.
So nervous right now. What do you say your name is again, Kimberly?
Exactly.
So, Sarah, I don't like to make decisions based on what I think. I don't like to analyze, like, well, would this be a good strategy? I like to go by how it feels to me. And I'm talking more like the very primal body sensation feeling of essentially my heart getting lighter or heavier. And it's very subtle language, but it's very persistent and I think powerful, even though it's subtle. So I really like to just do my best to go by that without having to put myself in a horrible trap where I say I have to have a good rationalization for why this is a yes, or I have to have a good rationalization for why this is a no. It's like, no, I'm allowed to say no because it doesn't feel good to me. And I'm allowed to say yes because this feels good to me. Whether or not we can hallucinate there's great strategy there or not. So that's the main modus operandi that I operate with when it comes to decisions. And
makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I could also get more refined with being in tune with my heart and my feelings. And I would also say it's taken me a long time to get to whatever level of refinement that I'm at now. But to me, it's like there's just so much grace and ease in life, even though it's still work hard. But so much grace and ease follows the fright of making a decision based on the heart.
Totally. So along the yes train, what are some projects that you would want to be doing in the next year, or people that you'd love to work with?
Yeah, so, one of the projects that I'll be doing, I'm not totally sure when it will be released, but I've got another meeting on it with my book publisher, Sounds True, this week. It'll be a video project, something along the lines of like a 41-day journey where every day you get a new video delivered to whatever the hell the app is, and it'll be on a specific arc to take people on and create momentum. So that's something exciting for me. I'll be doing a more full-on comedy tour towards the end of this year and into 2018. So that's exciting to me. And then people who I want to work with. Do you know who Kyle Cease is?
I do. You were on stage at one of his shows recently. My friend sent me a photo.
Yeah, Kyle is absolutely amazing. I have so much respect for him, and I I so value what he does because one, he's entertaining and so, and two, he's even more insightful and deep. So he and I, we're looking forward to doing like some videos together. We just haven't been able to find the time, align our schedules when we're both in the same city. But when the stars are aligned, I'm really looking forward to collaborating with him.
That's an awesome mashup. I'm sure that people will be really excited by that.
Yeah, I hope,
he's hilarious.
I am excited about it. I was also thrilled that Kyle's book that came out about a month ago made the New York Times bestseller list. Awesome. It's called I Hope I Screw This Up. I was very honored. He put my book endorsement on his book. And I then made him a video, published it on Facebook, which entertained the hell out of me, where in the video, I'm like, here's, I've been working on this book endorsement for months. And then I called Kyle up and asked him if he'd write a book for my book endorsement. He said, yes, got it to me the next day. And here it is. So that entertained the hell out of me. And I think he and I will have a lot of fun and purpose getting together more.
Yeah, I listened to his interview on Lewis Howes and he was great. I mean, I haven't been to any of his shows, but I have a lot of friends who have. And I was like, yep, he's speaking my language. I'm right there with him.
Yeah, I think you would absolutely love it. And one of the things I love about his, so he invited me to his 2-day Evolving Out Loud event.
Yeah.
So in no joke, he doesn't start thinking about what he's going to do at the event until a half an hour before the event. And to me, that really embodies his message, which is live in the moment, listen and feel for the inspiration. So I love the spontaneity that comes out in his event, the aliveness. And for me, he does just an amazing job of truly meeting the big audience where they're at. Like he's dancing with them real time, not like, well, I premeditated, we're going to do this, this, and this, so let's do that. Even though the audience might be dancing a little bit to a different rhythm, but the rhythm that was premeditated is different. So to me, it's just absolutely off the charts, amazing in many ways.
I really feel like you guys are treading on new ground because my exposure to, or my initial exposure to personal development and starting to define what spirituality looked like for myself and things like that were very humorless. I was like, I really want to be surrounding myself with people who are sharing my values, but they're not fun. And they're not as funny, or like what I was being exposed to wasn't striking a chord in that way. And so I think it's awesome that you're able to spread what your message is and do it in a comedic fashion. I think you're going to reach a lot more people.
Yeah, well, thank you for seeing it that way. And I think something that myself and I think Kyle have in common is comedy is something that's authentic to us. And I think, every spiritual teacher trying to use comedy isn't the purpose here.
Yeah.
Because I think if they're not naturally a comedian, then they would be being inauthentic. They wouldn't be showing up with the gift of their self if they were trying to be something they're not. And
they wouldn't be reaching the people that they're supposed to be.
100%. And I think looking at my situation, Kyle's situation, comedy is a language of connection. There are a lot of people who will pay attention to comedy. And if you embed deeper messages in the comedy or have deeper messages that accompany the comedy, then yes, I think it's a great gift of a situation to be in where the language of comedy that I speak, it does reach a lot of people. It can go very horizontal, and that's exciting.
It's interesting, like I'm going to hold your book up again. having gotten into this a bit, sometimes I'm like trying to wrap my head around what you're saying because I know you're joking, but it's like I'm hearing the underlying message. I'm also aware of the humor. I'm also aware of how ridiculous what a lot of people who would say the same stuff literally sound. You know, it's just like, it's very up here in a lot of ways. And I love it. I definitely was like laughing out loud reading it.
Oh, I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited to hear that it's making you laugh, making you think, making you hopefully not think at times as well.
Yeah. So what was, whether it's a chapter in the book or a video that you made, what's one thing that you've created where you were just like, that is so funny? Like you can't even stop laughing at yourself. Like that was so fun to make. That is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good question.
You've done a lot, so it's a hard question.
Yeah, there's a specific part in a video, the one I did called "How to Take a Yoga Photo for Instagram."
So good.
I'm during the scene, I'm like talking to the camera and I'm like kneeling by a rose bush. And like in the beginning of the scene, like I'm in my backyard and a bird just chirps. It's audible on camera. And then just at the end, after I deliver a short line, like I swat this rose right next to me. And it makes like a slapping sound. It's really cool. And then I say to the camera, I thought it was a bird. And that like, it just came out spontaneously and it just really made me laugh. It was normally when I'm delivering something and even the end product of a video, it's like, wow, I really appreciate that. And it's great. But it doesn't make me laugh. To me, it's very similar to like trying to tickle yourself.
Yeah.
It's like you're too in control of the tickling to make yourself be tickled.
Yeah.
So I think because the comedy is coming through me, I'm too in control to catch myself off guard. And catching someone off guard, delivering the unexpected is part of what makes people laugh. So it's hard to make myself laugh.
I get that. I was recording a video last year for a project and the bloopers, like I ended up releasing a blooper reel from it. And the blooper reel makes me crack up because I just remember how spontaneous and in the moment it all was and how unexpected. Whereas on some other videos or blog posts or something where I'm intentionally using humor, I'm like, that's nice, but it doesn't make you laugh out loud.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Yeah. So I know at the risk of talking even more about spirituality now that you're moving away from it.
I refuse to be spiritual because I'm so spiritual. I'm beyond it.
Rising above it these days. I want to know, what is your most and least daily spiritual habit? Or it doesn't have to be daily, but like things that you do where they are the most spiritual things and then they're also the least spiritual things.
I think the most spiritual thing is my creative time, whether it's writing a video or something along those lines. To me, creativity is a very spiritual process. I think the act of creativity is the umbilical cord that connects us to wherever creativity comes from. And I think it's beyond us. I don't think it's generated by our human mind. I think it's received by us and then we express it. And sometimes we're goofy enough that we pretend we did that, but it's more, maybe we just allowed that to come through us. And then, the least spiritual thing I typically do is yelling at other drivers in my car. And of course, I'm passive aggressive. I would never yell out the window. But I become so judgmental and condescending when I'm driving. Like I have the highest standards and nobody meets them. And my lovely girlfriend just sits there and puts up with it. And I think part of it is like, I'm trying to entertain her while also expressing like my displeasure for people doing maybe very unmindful things in a situation that they forget is actually life-threatening.
Yes.
So, driving and how I am when I drive.
Noted. When you come to Austin for your book signing, I'll make sure we arrive separately.
That'd be great.
We'll take different routes.
I would say I'd take an Uber and I won't be driving, but Austin for whatever reason. Allegedly,
we got it back.
Oh, it is back.
We have Uber and Lyft back. May I suggest Lyft over Uber?
You may. But will I actually go to the trouble of downloading a new app, which isn't the problem, but creating a profile is the pain in the arse.
You don't have Lyft?
No, I don't want to take 2 minutes to create another profile. Like for each app or whatever, it's like create another profile. It's like, wow, how original. I've done that 10,000 times in my life.
Well,
I'm done.
If I had to say so, Lyft would be the more spiritual of the two.
And why is that?
Uber's never going to sponsor my podcast, by the way. No, I just hear that they have a better way of treating their employees, and they're not here to like price gouge and completely take over the market, even though, of course, every business sort of is. But I just hear good things ethically about Lyft over Uber.
Okay, so if we pretend that I didn't care about other people, which I do, if we pretended I don't, just me getting in the car, getting from point A to point B and the price of it, would there be any noticeable difference for me there?
I have actually had lower prices with Lyft. They're always throwing out a discount. I don't know how they make any money. Yeah.
Okay.
My listeners are going to be very grateful for this conversation.
Okay. So, my road rage that comes out, not that it's really rageful, it's more just condescending passive aggressiveness. It wants to come out about Austin as well, like one of the most progressive cities, but they had Uber and Lyft banned for, how long were they banned for?
I want to say it was like a year. It was
ridiculous.
Rough. It was rough.
I want to, Kimberly, we should get the mayor of Austin on the phone. And he or she might say, well, it's back now. It's like, well, screw now. I want you to pay for your sins having banned this thing before. Because I think the last time I was in Austin was December.
For Freedom Fastlane, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
my memory is too good. Sorry.
Super good. So anyway, I think I'm done being passive aggressive with the mayor of Austin at this point.
Okay. Well, we can always revisit it. I did want to ask you.
I will. A time or two more.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute. I wanted to ask you a more personal question. Yeah. So you mentioned your girlfriend. I know you all have been together for a while, at least as long as I've known you.
Well, about 6 months, actually. So I don't think quite as long.
Oh.
But we met in January in Costa Rica.
Oh, I did not know this then.
The plot thickens.
It does. Okay, well, I was going to ask how you manage your intimate relationship with the way that your career has been progressing. Obviously, travel is a big part of it. Your attention is pulled in a lot of different directions, and a lot of people want your time. So how do you proactively and intentionally mitigate that in the relationship?
Yeah, with the mindset where, and I truly believe this and feel it, the relationship is my priority. When life blindsided me with her in January, before it blindsided me, I was of the opinion, I don't want a relationship because I don't want to take time away from my career, and I'd lose something with a relationship because I had been single for about a year at that point.
Okay.
And then life blindsided me, and it was very clear to me, prioritize this. This is the priority. Now, that doesn't mean my work doesn't matter anymore. It does. There's just something else that matters more. And I find I get more of me from the relationship. So there's more of me that can show up with work. So
can I ask you, for people who are listening, tactical or actionable ways that you show her that she is a priority?
Yeah, well, one, I tell her, but your question, show her. It's like, okay, it's challenging. She's been based in Costa Rica for 4 years. I've been based in Charleston for 3 years, and it's very clear we just want to live together. So she's here right now, and then so we'll be splitting time between Charleston, where I live now, and Costa Rica. So a big way I show her that is on my schedule for the next month and a half, I will be in Costa Rica with you. or at least based in Costa Rica. If there's a speaking gig on a weekend I fly out for, fine.
Yeah.
So that is really, in my opinion, massive action.
Totally.
And I think she sees it and feels it, and vice versa, because she's showing me the same thing. And it really, it demonstrates that this relationship is a great priority for her.
Totally. Yeah, I actually went to Costa Rica for the first time for a retreat last November, and
Cool.
it was stunning. I mean, I'd never been before. I'd never been on a retreat or anything like that. But given that you're going to be spending so much time there, do you think that you'll try and bring retreats back into your business?
Not super soon. There's some other things in the infrastructure of my business that I want to have in place so that it's just better set up to get people into retreats and manage it effortlessly.
Yeah.
Just to sound a little salesy, like right now, like the right funnels aren't in my business because it's like I'm not trying to sell anybody anything really.
You don't have ClickFunnels?
No, though I've been talking with those guys.
Yeah, I know. I do my homework.
Apparently you do. So, not that I want to ever come across like super salesy or pushy, but there's some of those kind of processes that need to be in place before I want to roll back out hosting my own retreats.
Just to make it easier, because for anyone who's listening who's never hosted an event, there's a lot of work that happens on the back end. And if you sell it yourself, there's a lot of systems that would make that much easier.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited for you. I love getting on the more personal side of things.
Yeah. And can I ask, which part of Costa Rica were you in?
I was in Cabuya, if I'm saying that right. It's near Montezuma Beach.
Is that on the Pacific or the east side?
It's on the peninsula.
Okay.
To the left.
To the left. So that's the west side.
Yeah.
Based on the vocabulary. Cool.
I got an A in geography in high school, obviously.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's near Montezuma. I think that was the biggest town. And Turtle Beach or Turtle Island.
Cool. I think I've heard of it. There's surprisingly a lot to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Yeah, it was epic, though. Our retreat center was up in the rainforest. You had to hike 30 minutes along a river to even get to it every time you came and went.
Wow, talk about getting away from it all.
Yeah, it was really great. No internet. I don't think we had internet. And all the food was Ayurvedic. Am I saying that right?
I think so. Ayurvedic?
Ayurvedic? Yeah, maybe that's it.
It.
I figured you, of all people, would know, but...
Ayurvedic?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so good. So I'll post a link to that as well in the show notes. So I did want to go back to your book a little bit before we wrap up. I wanted to ask how you went about choosing a publisher and an editor, because obviously you have a very specific style of writing and voice. So how did you pick those?
There were various publishers approaching me, and we talked to some of the different publishers, and ultimately, it's just like, it sounds true, the publisher, they seemed, and I so believe it to be true, they seemed like they were the most genuinely into me, my work, and valuing it, which makes sense. They're a very spiritual, self-growth oriented publisher. They're
Boulder-based.
They're in Boulder, Colorado, and they're very exclusive to that genre. Yeah. And then, so It Sounds True was almost just like a no-brainer. It's like from the get-go, it's like, I feel like sounds true. And then the editor, they assigned me an editor after careful consideration, and they gave me a wonderful, wonderful man, Robert Lee. He's all tattooed up. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he teaches meditation, and he's all in the spiritual world. so he keeps it real, and
Yeah.
he has a sense of humor. So it was their assessment, like, Robert will be the best match for JP. And it was perfect. Like, there was virtually nothing he suggested that didn't make the given section better. And also so open. Like, if he'd make a suggestion, it's on the rare occasion where it's like, well, that doesn't feel right to me, he'd be like, no problem. So he was just amazing. I don't know what kind of good karma I have, why I got the perfect publisher for me and the perfect editor within the publisher for me. But in a little bit of a more tangible word, Sounds True was most congruent with me and where my heart's at.
Totally. Yeah. And it shows. I mean, I told you when I saw your book in the Boulder bookstore right after I had launched, and it was like right next to Dr. Seuss, which is pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah. And
good company.
Yeah. And I was looking at where it was located in the store. It was with all the other books that publisher had released. It was just very clearly, they got you. And you can see that in the cover and in the way that the book is put together and edited. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. And I'm so grateful that, man, I was just gifted the most wonderful people to work with.
How long did the book take you to write? What was your writing process? I know it says you wrote it in a past life and stored it in some caves.
Obviously.
But yeah, if you can remember that far back, how long do you think it took you?
Yeah, to come up with the first draft before we went into the editing phases, it was like a 2.5 month writing process.
That's quick.
And my process was very consistent every single day, write for an hour and a half in the morning. And once in a while, there would be a day where I had more time and I'd do like an afternoon writing session of maybe an hour. But that consistency was so important for me. And it was sustainable. It's not like, let me write for 10 hours for a day and then I'm like burnt out for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was a very sustainable pace that I think I discovered pretty quick into the process.
Yeah, I've been working on mine for like a year, so 2.5 months feels so fast.
Yeah, it surprised me, honestly, how quick it was. And I don't think faster is better or slower is better, but the right speed for the person and the relationship they have with the work that wants to be expressed through them, that's what's most important to pay attention to.
Yeah. As we're talking about ours, I see that I have a manifestation totem that I created for my book. And I put on the back "Forward" by Lewis Howes. Because I've told him he's gonna write my forward at some point. So I'm manifesting that, which just got me wondering, do you practice any sort of visualization, law of attraction type things? Are you into that?
Not really. I'm more into what's the feeling I want to experience, not necessarily the story surrounding the feeling of this circumstance, but like, what's the feeling? And the feeling is always available to us 100% of the time. We just have to become aware of the feeling and feel it. So I personally find a lot of benefit of honing into the feeling I want to experience. So it's like, okay, whatever my next project is, the literal might be like, I want it to be this. But the real question I need to ask myself is, what feeling am I looking for? Like, how would that make me feel? And then I go find that feeling now. And I think that actually puts me in a better vibrational state to go about creating the literal reality. Or maybe life has upgrades in the way, which means it won't be the way I visualize it. It'll be better. Yeah. Even if I judge it to be worse because it didn't meet my delusional expectations of what I thought it was supposed to be.
Yep, totally. I get that. And I feel like for people who do visualizations and create vision boards and things like that, without tapping into the feeling that you're desiring, they're not as powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Me, at least.
I think feelings are a powerful force of nature. Thoughts are Cool. Feelings are just, I think there's so much power in them.
Yeah, totally. Well, before we wrap up, I want to make sure that everyone knows where they can grab a copy of the book and check out all of your latest videos if they don't already subscribe. So listen.
If you're so moved, you can grab the book on Amazon.com. That's the easiest place. And my latest videos, you can join me on my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page. Awaken with JP are my handles for all my social media outlets. So
all the things.
See y'all on Awaken with JP if you choose to join me.
Awesome. JP, one more question for you. We sort of chatted a little bit about what you'd been up to since we last spoke, but I want to know, what is the boldest thing that you've done either lately or since we last chatted?
Yeah, in January, I let go of my one-on-one client coaching practice where I was doing emotional healing work with people, had been for about 15 years. Great practice, great work, yet my heart was calling me to let go of it. And it had been calling me for a little while, but I listened in January. It's easy to let crappy things go. It's hard to let great things go, yet sometimes that's necessary if our heart directs us to, so that something even greater can be stepped into. So yeah, that was bold.
Yeah.
I don't say so myself.
I feel like that's an awesome example too, because so often people think of being bold as like doing something scary that you're not sure if it's a good fit, but being able to walk away from something that's good versus towards something that you're unsure about, great example.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, JP, so much fun getting to chat again. We will catch you soon here in Austin at the book signing, and we'll definitely have all the things linked up in the show notes.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Looking forward to seeing you in Austin, and thank you for having me on again.
Definitely.